the first question that I always ask a client is, do we need an app for it?
Every week, I catch up with an indie app developer to talk about a different part of the Shopify ecosystem. Today, I'm going rogue. We've got a guy who threw a legitimate frat party in a real frat house in Toronto at DotDev recently, and that's where I met him. We're both agency guys from a long way back, and I've been wanting to do an episode on where agencies fit into the Shopify ecosystem. Why? Alongside app developers, agencies and consultants make up a huge part of the ecosystem. And for those of us building apps, we all know that an agency that advocates for us is so valuable. But building those relationships isn't as easy as offering some kickbacks or taking them to lunch. For merchants, there's so much expertise living in app developers and agencies, and leveraging both is how great e-commerce businesses perform. So that's what this conversation is all about. Matt Humphreys is the perfect person to talk to. He has scaled large agency teams in the past, and he's worked with retailers of all shapes and sizes. Now he runs a boutique agency, Urban Folk, out of Toronto. Thanks to the support heroes for sponsoring the show and supporting app developers all over the world. Please like, subscribe, share, and check out my own apps at nativeappco.com. Our product enrichment app, Product Pelican, has just launched a bunch of new AI features, including the ability to analyze your product images for creating rich product content. But enough about that, let's get straight into the chat with Matt. Matt, thanks for joining us on the Shopify App Show. I know it's a little bit of a different one today. We're not actually talking to an app developer, but I wanted to do and we're calling it the agency episode. And yeah, I wanted to bring someone who had a really interesting mix of agency experience and just experience across the whole ecosystem. You're someone who's gone from, you worked big agency side and then you're now running a boutique agency. So can I get you to tell me a little bit about your story?
Yeah, I've been on the agency side for about 25 years now. Started small, moved over to a big tech firm, and then right about when Shopify started to get pretty popular, I joined a big agency, which was small at the time, called Diff, and helped scale that up to the point where it was over 100 people. Since then, over the last 5 or so years, I've run my own shop called Urban Folk. So been in the ecosystem for about 13 years or so in Shopify, and have experienced the crazy growth from not even having Plus, doing mostly SMB right up to what it is today.
Yeah, awesome. It's quite a journey, isn't it? And I'd love to hear what's talk a little bit about the change that's happened over that time, and the types of problems you're solving today versus the types of problems you were solving 13 years ago.
Well, I remember that the most surprising thing when I moved from sort of big enterprise focused tech over to Shopify was how much smaller the deal sizes were and how much quicker the timelines were. And it's mostly because we were serving, a little slightly smaller customer, mid-market, I guess we would call it today. And it was just so much easier to put something together because there was so much less customization. And that was 13 years ago. And I was amazed. And then it just kept getting better and better. That was before the creation of the Plus stream, before we could actually build into things as much as we do now. But even back then, I felt like the platform was destined to take over because it was just so much easier than some of the big complex ones that were out there at the time. And e-commerce was really taking off around that time, when probably, courted by the fact that Shopify was making things a lot easier for people. So it's really changed a lot, now down to the point where nuts and bolts factories are selling directly on Shopify, where they would never even think about that. Back then, it was fax machines to a dealer network, and you would meet in person and call in an order and all that kind of stuff. And we're really trying to push the needle on getting that all digitized as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy the stuff that's on there now. Last night I was ordering some Soda Stream bottles to get delivered to my house, and I thought that's just something that that wasn't something I was expecting to see a Shopify checkout on, but it's everything now, isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so tell us a little bit about what sort of work you're working on at the moment, because the shape of the project work and the things that you're being asked to do as an agency today, I'm sure are very different to even what they were 12 or 18 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The deal size hasn't really changed. I still focus on the mid market. It's the perfect size of customer that doesn't need a huge agency with 4 or 5 departments servicing their internal resources. It's more about small projects or projects that are ongoing to help the customer grow. So if you're in that $5 to $50 million range, you're likely in a position where you can start bringing on external help, and you don't have the potential of hiring someone in at a senior level in the UX design or Shopify expertise. So bringing in someone fractionally to help you grow is actually quite common. And that's really the niche that I really dug into is you're not big enough to hire a big agency to take over an entire chunk of work from you, but you're not big enough to get a person that knows it so well that they aren't at an agency anymore. So that's really where I help clients exceed expectations, work on a CRO basis to try to help improve their on-page conversion, implement new features, grow as we grow their roadmap, and either let them sort of internalize eventually, or we just keep going and going and going until they're a megalith.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, I love that approach, and I also think we're in a great place at the moment, aren't we? Like, as someone I'm calling myself recently retired agency myself, and but like going to .dev a few weeks ago and speaking to a lot of agency people there, like there's a real theme where the people who actually know their stuff about the platform and can actually really sit down and guide businesses, they're actually more valuable than ever now, aren't they? Because it was previously a case of like running as the platform grew and the enterprise complexity grew with some of the projects. I think what happened is you end up with businesses that need like that. They need to have, I hate the word scrum manager and stuff like that. That makes me shudder. But
Mm,
like you had bigger projects where it was a lot more about the management and the governance and stuff on projects. But I feel like
yeah.
we're in a really fun time now where you actually can get in and actually be solving day-to-day business problems and running that CRO drive for people, can't you?
Well, yeah, and if as long as the velocity is there, as long as the client has enough traffic to be able to prove something, we can get in and make a real material change to their site in hours, whereas it used to take days. With vibe coding, with all of the AI tool set we have, with all of the observational behavior tools that automate some of the reporting that we used to have to dig for, there's so much more that we can do so much quicker. In fact, it's actually gotten to a point where one of my clients says, "Listen, you got to slow down because things are. I guess I'm killing their backlog so quickly that they can't even keep up with some of the content production that we're doing. So we have to shift over to other types of projects and other endeavors." So that they can catch up with the velocity that agencies are working at, and that's not to say that there isn't a lot of work to do. It just has really accelerated how much we can deliver within the same amount of time. And if you're an expert that knows how to position yourself within clients and the roadmap of building them into a greater business than they are now, then you can really carve out a good niche.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, it flows through too, doesn't it? Like, then that's part of the role now is not actually justifying your existence by doing more work. It's actually by picking the right work to do, isn't it? And picking the right things to put in front of the client, who then in turn also is putting that stuff in front of their customers. Because if you're overloading the client with their 15 features all at once, or 10 promotions all at once, and then they've got to communicate that with customers, it's going to be noise for the customers as well, isn't it? So it flows all through.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's also vetting things that they'll hear or see. right? Like I'll get a client saying, "Oh, I just watched this podcast. We got to do this," and I'll say, "Okay, well, that's a great idea. That was not on the roadmap. Let's see where that's going to fit. Let's evaluate that against the other things that we have on our backlog, and then let's decide where it fits in." So it's kind of being like you said before, being a scrum master, but then still just doing. Like that's the thing. Like I'm not somebody that just likes planning and then see you in a couple months, we'll figure it out. I'd rather just stop planning. Let's just do it as quickly as we can, see what works, break, fix. Like we can do that so much more now than we could 12, 16 months ago, because everyone now expects it. And I've been talking to a lot of agency owners out there that are kind of jokingly saying that now people are hiring us to just know how to use AI better to accelerate the stuff that we're doing for them. And true, it would take them a lot more time to figure out how to do not only our SME, but then use AI to accelerate our own SME.
Well, that's it. That's like you can badge it as AI, but they've always just hired us to write the code better or design stuff better or do it at a more efficiency and bring that expertise across the whole offering from having worked with lots of people, haven't we? So I don't know if it's changed as much as maybe as maybe we put the AI halo on. What's the moment a Shopify app realizes they can't keep doing support tickets themselves?
When an app realizes that they need the help, it's already a little bit too late. And all of a sudden, you start getting 15, 20, 30 queries a day. You look at the inbox and it just keeps piling up. You sit down to build and there's just no time. That's when most app developers realize that they're a little bit in trouble.
The Support Heroes. Round-the-clock support for your Shopify apps. Visit thesupportheroes.com today. Now, I wanted to pivot and talk about apps because we do call it the Shopify app show, as much as I'd love to talk about agency all day now that we've started. But yeah, I'd love. I know one of the things like in the role that you have and I've had in the past, like you get so many people come through trying to pitch new apps. There's always something new to look at. There's always shiny things. There's always people inundating you. But the actual, like, it's one of the things that you really are trusted with as that consultant is to be able to recommend what apps people actually use. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you do that and how you help clients with choosing their tech stack and what platforms they should and shouldn't use.
Yeah, I think the first question that I always ask a client is, do we need an app for it, right? So that's the first point of evaluation is the thing you want to do, does it require an app? Because sometimes it may be simple enough and maybe one single feature that we can actually code into the experience without needing an app to control. And then that reduces the overhead, reduces the maintenance, reduces the page performance, or improves it by not having to put an extra code block in there, right? Even if it's from an app that's sort of isolated. So that if it does then result in us saying, okay, yeah, we need something that will be external to Shopify, an extension of Shopify, then it starts with research. And thankfully, I've had enough years of research that I have some go-tos for the specific function or feature that a client is looking for. And it'll either be an immediate, yeah, I know what we need to do. We need to look at this one. Or really it'll just be like, you know what, I've done this before. I've checked what's out there. We just need to pick this app because I've had this experience with it before. I know the person running it. Whenever I ping them, they're really quick to respond. And it's sort of a formulaic approach to saying, this is vetted. You can look around, but best to just trust me on this one because this one has never let me down. So it's like referring a contractor or, your barber or something like that. Like these are trusted partners that you've had before that have helped you or a partner or a client. And you're just willing to just vouch for them because of that good relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the service thing, like to me, that's actually always been number one, is like someone who you can get on a line with, or as an agency having a Slack channel with an app that you use regularly, and that type of stuff is just, it's actually almost more valuable than the product in some some ways, because everyone could build the product, but knowing someone who can actually help solve the problems, and if there is a bug, just fix it quickly. Like that's that's almost, to me, the number one indicator, and it always has been. But
Yeah, and I found that really results in an improvement to the actual app itself. If because I'll relay gaps in the app or gaps in functionality or something that a client is really looking for, and I'm not saying this because they want to have a specific use case. Most of the time, if I recommend that the app developer adds a feature, it's because there's likely longevity with it. And that's really what we need to be thinking about is what are you building for? You got to build for a client. So this is something that I do regularly, which is a feedback loop to app developers that way.
Yeah, awesome. And I'd love to talk a little bit too about like the threshold of like what you can build as an internal tool has become so much more powerful in recent times.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, how has it changed for you, like in terms of are there things that you now just build internally or build bespoke for people rather than use an app?
Well, I still start with an app usually because it's all about for me, it's speed to market. It's a proof of concept so that I can say to the client, listen, this was a good idea. So if I know that something can do it quicker and I can have it up tomorrow, then why risk changing the code base? But then we do evaluate specific things that may or may not require an app. And that's where you kind of extend the cost of that into, and doing it once, and then maybe it costs what an app would cost over a year, but it won't cost what an app costs over 2 or 3 years. So that's where we evaluate it. And it'll be little things like adding a drop down to checkout to capture some extra information on the client, or making sure that we don't let the user check out if they haven't hit a specific threshold of minimum purchase. Like, that used to require an app, but now you can actually build that and use it and customize it to exactly the specification you're looking for.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And like, do you get people coming to you now and just saying, like, can't you just build it for me?
I haven't had that yet. I've had clients that where I've said, hey, listen, we don't need an app for that anymore. But I haven't had clients that are that informed. I think that's probably a benefit because, they're either, they trust me, or they just don't have the time to do all the research that we're all doing. Like, we assume that clients are as well versed in what we do now because we hear about it all the time. But the reality is that most clients that engage an agency, or most clients that engage with a tech partner, still don't know as much as we do, and don't know as much as what we know AI can do for us or for them. So it's still up to us to say, hey, listen, I can do the same amount of time every week for you, but I'm going to do more. And I've had most clients say, oh, that's great. Okay, we won't change anything. We just want you to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Awesome. And onto the view of, like, from an app perspective, like, I know there's always posts about, like, a while ago, there were 700 apps went into the app store 1 week or whatever. So there's never been more apps popping up. And I've asked this with a bit of as someone who's recently got into the app ecosystem myself. I'm probably asking this question selfishly as much as anything, but I'd love to get any advice you have on, like, what if you are starting an app, what are the advices you'd give people for building those partnerships with agencies and building that partner network to when you're first starting out?
So the first thing that I would do is no different than how I would evaluate how to create a great user experience for a client. Learn about the user that you're trying to target, not necessarily even the merchant. The merchants are going to be your customers effectively, but what problem are you solving for someone shopping on the internet? And it doesn't just have to be shopping on the internet. Maybe you're serving a different purpose or a different market and not e-commerce. But it's like anyone who's an inventor. What stress or what friction are you trying to remove? What are you trying to replace that's manual? Like, have an actual problem that you identify. And then I would highly recommend you vet that. Don't talk to like 100 merchants or do user polls or anything, go to agencies that have 20 clients or 50 clients and say, here's this idea, like, what do you think about this? Because if you're an account rep or a project manager or anybody at a smaller agency, you're talking to your clients regularly and they're telling you what their problems are. Because if you're not asking them what their problems are, then you're not doing a good job of figuring out where the work's going to come from in a month or two, right? So you have to be in constant contact with your clients. It's probably better than interviewing a bunch of merchants to figure out what they want. Talk to the person that talks to all the merchants and hears their gripes, and vet what you're doing against some feedback loop. Like I hear so many apps or of people that start apps and they push them out in the store. They just want to know, hey, let's see if anybody uses it. But you could have easily stopped the need for all that creation, unless of course it takes you an overnight, on with Claude Code to create. Then fine, it didn't really take you any time. But just make sure you have it fully vetted what you're actually trying to solve, and it's actually a problem. They say that inventors, the best inventors in the world, are ones that have run into the specific issue they're trying to solve for themselves.
Yeah.
Like I think that that's probably the best learning you can take is like, how do inventors and creators come up with their ideas? They get really frustrated by something that happened to them, and then they try to fix it themselves. So think about that and try to infer that frustration that a user would have on a site, and try to just do your own persona research by taking the lowest common denominator of a user and thinking about what they would be looking for on a site, and go out and test that theory.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's where I see it at too, is like, as much as the technology and the things that people are building and everything in the world, as much as we get in the hype that it's all changing, it's all kind of the same principle, isn't it? Like, you've got to get out there, find a problem to solve, go and find some people who are interested in that problem, and build those relationships from the ground up. There's not a world where we can expect to put something in an online marketplace with thousands of other things in it and have it just magically rise to the top through a bit of luck. It just it maybe did exist a little bit at times, but they're very small windows where those types of things happen, and they're actually, even in those times, for every torch app that was invented for iPhone that made $1 million, there's also another 1,000 of them that just didn't, aren't there? And you need to do that work to get that initial traction and make it actually happen for you, because no one else is going to do it for you.
Yeah,
and that's how it's always been.
It's the fundamentals of product design, right? You need a product market fit, and then because there needs to be demand. Like, why would someone just open a sandwich shop because they like sandwiches? There has to be people around that place that want to eat sandwiches, not just because you like to cook. There needs to be some market research involved, and if you're an app dev, a solo app dev, or even a team, the best market research you can do is talk to the people that talk to your customers on a regular basis. And you could just have a half dozen of those people that you talk to, and that could easily prove your theory that you need to create this thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the face-to-face with people is just the other thing that I've just found is so valuable too, isn't it? Like, whether it's a client or you're building a product. Like, I spent yesterday, I drove 2 hours to catch up with a few people that could have easily been video calls, but the value you get from actually sitting in a room with someone, you come back with 10 times more useful feedback than if you just keep everything digital. And that face-to-face just matters, I think, more than ever, really, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Like, if I'd cold emailed you to go on this podcast or whatever, you potentially wouldn't have responded to me, that's completely fine, because we all get so much of that. And so, I was going to finish up with that too. Actually, I was actually almost going to open with this, but yeah, I want to get you to run me through how you ended up at DotDev. We met at a frat party that you put on in Toronto, and it was a legitimate frat party. It was a actual frat house. Like, I took photos, like there were the Greek symbols on the wall and all of that sort of stuff. So talk us through that.
Well, as an agency, or even as a person who has a brand, I don't do any paid marketing or advertising, or I don't do a lot of outbound sales generation or anything. I like to focus on really making my company and myself memorable, and I prefer, just as you mentioned earlier, and that was a good segue into real life experiences as a way for people to understand what I do. Now, and as much as I do have digital conversations with people regularly to learn what they do, I prefer it in person. And I'm as dangerous as the knowledge that I have. If I know what you do and I hear somebody say, "Hey, I kind of need that," then I'm easily the best connector that you can have when it comes to referring someone and making that connection. So IRL things are really important for me. I'm also, a kind of an old school IRL person that existed before people had cell phones and the internet even was around. So, having not grown up with that, the only way to meet up with your friends was to call them from your landline and then meet them somewhere. And if you were on your way or late, you couldn't tell them. You just had to wait around until they showed up. And if they didn't show up, you'd get mad at them. You'd go home, you'd call them. And if they weren't home, you'd leave a message. Like, this is what the world we used to live in the 80s. But fast forwarding to, how that really changed the way and the behavior that I think most people around my age will have, is that the real life connections do make a big difference in relationships. And I think that one of my biggest superpowers is just being able to get along with a lot of people and really just make those connections in person. And because of that, having Toronto as my playground and my backyard, literally in my backyard is in Toronto, it's easy to go to these events and be there. And I've been to a lot of events in Toronto, but never been in a position to say, you know what, I want to actually welcome people to it. So I had an idea, because I was a University of Toronto grad, president of my fraternity house on campus for multiple years, and an active member of the fraternity and an alumni today. I thought, it would be kind of interesting and authentic and different than the typical happy hour and bar or hotel situation and venue, would be to actually throw an old school party that was Toronto centric, on campus, at a Victorian home built in the 1800s, and welcome people that weren't used to that, or maybe were but hadn't lived it in a long time, to just enjoy something a little bit different. And we designed an experience, Trudy and I, to relive our college days, because we were both fraternity sorority members at University of Toronto, and just do something that was more us. And because going to a bar or a happy hour somewhere is still a great occasion to meet and network with people, I'm really a big fan of creating memorable experiences, and I'd rather not spend my own hard-earned money sponsoring something that can be forgotten. And I think I don't know if you agree, but I think an experience like the Matt and Trudy's Ultimate .dev frat party is something that people will remember for quite a while, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again based on that feedback. And that's really why we did it, and why we originated that concept, was just to change the norm of in real life experiences in such a digital world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it was a great way to finish the week for me. I had a great night. I was expecting Frank the Tank to jump out at some point, because as in Australia, we don't have the frat house culture as much. So movies like that are where we get our best exposure to it. So, but no, look, it was. I think the thing I took out of it too, and out of the whole week, is the independent events, like the things outside of the main conference, were what made the week so special. And that's where the really good conversations and good good relationships are formed. And so like I know there were people organised dinners and people who had like we did a little podcast recording session, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, there was the Green Party one night and the stuff that was a little bit different. And I think also the stuff with sort of smaller crowds where you can actually sit and talk to someone properly, that's where the real value I think comes out of the week. So no, it was very cool seeing some of those different events. And yeah, like the frat party was an absolute highlight, not just for the fact it was a frat party, but like, yeah, sitting out on the back deck, having a chat with like a really successful theme developer and chatted to people who've built other apps or worked in all kinds of different areas. And yeah, those conversations, if you put yourself in different scenarios, you find you bump into people you maybe wouldn't chat to otherwise. So no, it was fantastic. And also I think the big takeaway from that is that I think people do want that unique experience. Like it's so easy to get a few sponsors together, put a couple of grand over a bar tab and expect that it's going to make magic happen. But I don't know if it actually, like I went to an event like that last week and it was fantastic, but I don't know if you're putting your brand and name to it, if that's going to actually deliver the absolute most, if you're just, putting your logo on a pull-up banner and hoping that will deliver the results for you.
Yeah. Well, I still put my logo on a pull-up banner, but no, but it resonated a little bit differently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so look, I'm a big advocate for it happening again next year. I look forward to it. And
all right.
I could talk all day, like I say, particularly about our war wounds from the agency side, but it's we call it the Shopify app show. And so I wanted to talk a lot about apps as well. And your perspectives on that were really valuable. And yeah, I'd love to even do a part 2 of this chat sometime, because I really enjoyed all of your insights. And yeah, thanks so much for joining from all the way in Toronto. I'm very jealous of your backyard there. It's a very nice backdrop you got there. So no, thanks Matt. And anyone tuning in at home, make sure you like, subscribe, share, all of that stuff as well, because that's what I have to say on a podcast. So thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.